Joining me today is Corey DeAngelis, a senior fellow at the Reason Foundation. Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, Corey, here in Virginia, the governor's race is heating up. But before we talk about state politics, I want to talk about what's been happening nationwide with the National School Boards Association. Now, you just tweeted that 18 school boards associations have now distanced themselves from the National School Boards Association. Can you tell us a little bit about what's behind this, and do you expect this to continue to other states throughout the country?
Yeah, the whole controversy started a few weeks ago when the National School Board Association sent a formal letter to the Biden administration, essentially suggesting that some parents who are fighting back at school board meetings and voicing their opinions about the curriculum in their schools, that some of those parents should be labeled as domestic terrorists and investigated for their actions at the school board meetings. A lot of families did not like that, and so there's been a nationwide pushback because this seems like an attempt to bully parents into submission for voicing real legitimate concerns. And if you look at that letter from the National School Board Association, they didn't have any legitimate evidence as to why this should be escalated all the way to the federal government. If there is an issue and that happens at the local level, that there is violence that occurs, which they did not cite, then local law enforcement should absolutely step in, and nobody disagrees with that. The issue is that they're escalating it so quickly to the federal government to try to bully parents and silence them for pushing back and trying to hold school boards accountable through the democratic process. So now we have 18 states that are listed at the website and the organization called Parents Defending Education. They've been tracking this. They sent messages to all the state level school board associations to try to see how they felt about the National School Board Association's letter. And 18 of those state school board associations have now distanced themselves from the national organization, largely because of the comments in that letter to the Biden administration. And so then it becomes the question of, and that raises the question of, what does it mean to distance themselves? This differs by state, but some states have gone as far, including Pennsylvania and Louisiana, to completely pull their dues from the national organization. Florida was another state that had mentioned that they weren't going to pay their membership dues, but they differ a little bit in Florida in that they were already not paying their dues, but they mentioned in their letter how this was more evidence as to why they weren't going to pay their dues this year either in Florida.
Now, do you expect, I guess, moving forward for, say, the midterm elections and even for 2024, some of these states that you mentioned, Pennsylvania, Virginia, for instance, obviously we'll see what the governor's race, whether it turns red or not, but for some of these states, they voted for Biden back in 2020. Do you think that this could be sort of maybe an unspoken issue in 2020, but is now gaining more momentum ahead of the midterms and the presidential election?
Yeah, Delaware is another state that distanced themselves from the national organization. So, look, I think a lot of state level organizations, they see this as overly polarizing. Even if they're left leaning, the national organization just went way too far when it came to including the words domestic terrorism in their letter to the Biden administration. So it actually looks good for the state level organizations. It's in their best interest to distance themselves from this national organization because they understand that the vast majority of parents are doing the right thing for their kids by participating in the democratic process and aren't this isn't rising to the level of violence or threats that would warrant federal intervention. So it is partially out of self-interest, I believe, that they're distancing themselves from the national organization. And look, when you look at things like the Virginia governor's race, education is becoming a hot issue, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Parents want to say what happens with their kids' educations. And when it comes to the Virginia's governor's race, we're seeing that education is taking center stage.
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, this race, we're less than a month out now, and I feel like education has really become a hot topic, a hot issue for voters. Obviously, here we have Fairfax County, we have Loudoun County, all of which are counties that have made national headlines because of parents speaking out at school board meetings. We had, that Daily Wire piece that came out about the girl who was allegedly sexually assaulted at school, and her dad, being thrown into the spotlight because of his actions at a school board meeting. From your perspective, obviously as an advocate for school choice, how can parents be advocates for their students or for their kids if they are in the public school system, but they're potentially, with that going to be labeled a domestic terrorist?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the problem with this kind of fairy tale idea of democratic accountability when it comes to the public school system. One of the main arguments for the one-size-fits-all government-run school system is that families can get together, supposedly, and influence the policies in their kids' schools. But you have one of the candidates for the governor's race in Virginia essentially admitted during the debate that he believes that he doesn't think parents should be telling schools what to teach. And you can see with this National School Board Association knee-jerk reaction to label parents as domestic terrorists that this isn't a true form of accountability in the current system. Just imagine if a private business or a private school attempted to label its customers as domestic terrorists. They would essentially go out of business immediately. But you can see with the public school system, because the institution doesn't have a particularly strong incentive to cater to the needs of families, they don't have to listen to their customers. And in a sense, their customers are nothing more than a nuisance. And so they don't have to listen to their needs. And so families can push for school choice policies, or what I would call funding students as opposed to systems. And they're doing that all across the nation. I mean, 19 states already this year have expanded or enacted programs to fund students directly through school choice programs. And just this week, the Michigan Senate, the full Senate, passed on a party line vote a new bill to fund students as opposed to systems. So this isn't going away anytime soon. Families over the past year and a half have finally started to figure out that there isn't any good reason to fund institutions when you can fund the student directly instead. But at the same time, if school choice isn't on the cusp of passing in your state, you should still go and show up at the school board meetings to make your voices heard, even if that's not the best form of accountability. At least it will help parents to push back and make their voices heard, at least in showing up at the school board meetings. So parents shouldn't back down and be intimidated by the pushback from the other side. They should continue to show up and make their voices heard. So that's two ways to kind of push back and to fight for your kids.
Yes, absolutely. And just one final question. You talked there about incentives for public schools essentially not having, any incentives really to be held accountable. Does Dr. Jill Biden being in the White House, a teacher herself, do you think that has any influence on how these public schools are treating parents and students?
Yeah, so there are federal regulations, but I will say most education policy and funding comes from state and local sources. So if you want to get things done when it comes to educational freedom, although the current administration isn't friendly to educational freedom and school choice programs, I'm still optimistic because around 92% of funding for K-12 education comes from state and local sources, and that's where we're seeing a bunch of victories in 2021. We're actually dubbing this year as the year of school choice, or if you're really hip with the lingo by now, 2021 is the year that we fund students, not systems. As I pointed out, 19 states have expanded or enacted programs to fund students directly, as opposed to the previous legislative session. I believe there was only one state that passed a new school choice program, which was Utah. So we've really turned up the heat when it comes to educational freedom. And I think one of the reasons for that is that although there was so much trouble for families through this government rushed form of remote learning or remote instruction, there was a silver lining in that families got to see what was going on in the classroom. And a lot of families didn't like what they saw or what they heard going on in their kids' classrooms. And that has really mobilized parents to push back. And I don't think these parents are going to go away anytime soon. There's been a spotlight that has been shown on the inequities and inadequacies of the current system, and parents aren't going to forget what they experienced over the past year and a half. They're not going to forget how powerless they felt over the past year and a half, and they're going to keep marching forward, whether it comes to the Virginia governor's race. They're going to show up at the school board races and at the ballot box, but they're not going to stop there, because there's this vision ingrained in parents' minds from months and months of failures in the current system, to where they're not going to forget that. They're going to continue marching forward and fighting. And that gives me optimism for educational freedom nationwide.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. As we talked about, the Virginia governor's race is coming up. I believe it's November 2nd. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, given the fact that, education and these school board meetings have been such a hot topic, a national issue over the last couple of months. I really appreciate you joining me. I'd love to have you back on as education and school choice continues to be at the forefront of our conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much.